What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dissect That Film, where we dissect your favorite films, film franchises, and TV. Today, on our new installment of Slice of TV, we are talking about episode 6 of the Paramount Plus show Halo. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, is the wonderful Andrew Schoening.
Hi there, everybody.
How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, it's another week of Halo. That's all I gotta say. TV has been good this week. You know, watching the
Yes.
latest episode of Moon Knight last week, and then watching this. I'm just like, I need more. I need
Yes.
more. And we just
I
got
I can
Ozark back, which is like for me as a big deal. Oh man, TV's good right now.
it was a pleasant surprise, this episode of Halo. I was honestly waiting for a giant disappointment, as we kinda talked about in the last episode. I really was just waiting to be set up to be disappointed, and
Yep.
I ended up being halfway impressed.
Me too. Pleasantly surprised. There was a lot of stuff where I was like, okay, all right, this all makes sense. This is all going very fluently. There's no backtracking, seeing flashbacks. A place is literally completely removed from this episode, which makes it a-okay in my book, as we talk about every week. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, it definitely was a slower pace than episode 5, which
Yeah.
makes sense. I feel if it's constantly in that same like action packed pace, it turns just kind of into a video game. If you think about it, like
Right.
it's that's what video games are. I mean, yeah, they have stories, but most of the time you're just like looking for that next encounter to to fight, especially when it comes to the Halo franchise. But a lot of awesome backstory, just continuing to show you that Halsey sucks. She sucks.
Yeah.
Um, And I mean, she's not the only one, though. I mean, you find out of all the other people who are involved in Halsey's sketchiness and bad deeds. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
these people suck too. But Halsey is the one who just continues to dig herself into a deeper hole and thinks, like, if I tell them, this is going to make everything better. It's like, it's not. It's making everything worse.
Yes.
Oh. And so I just want to address the pronunciation of it's McKee, not
McKee.
Mackie. I watched all the behind the scenes Halo Declassified videos that they're like half hour behind the scenes videos where the host interviews people from the show and then they do behind the scenes stuff. And I watched the one where they were interviewing Charlie Murphy, who plays McKee, and they kept saying it that way, and I'm like, "Son of a bitch, we've been saying it wrong the whole time."
Yeah.
That's the thing,
No,
we
we
never really heard her name, though, in the show, so I guess
I don't think you actually hear her pronounce her name
no.
until this episode, so
Right.
I mean, I feel like we get a pass on this one.
Yeah, I wasn't kicking myself too hard when I heard it. So, yeah, I mean, what are your overall thoughts, non-spoilers, on this episode from beginning to end?
Um, I mean, I pretty much stated already. I was pleasantly surprised with this. I don't know whether it was the fact that we got the same director as the last episode
Mhm.
that Jonathan Liebsman, uh I probably butchered his last name, but uh
Sounds right to me.
uh it was the exact same director as the last episode. I felt like it really picked up after the last episode. You got a lot of questions answered. You got a lot of it's like you said, there was no action really in this one, but um there was a lot of story to be told. There was a lot of character development. Um there was just some curveballs that you didn't expect uh to be shown or told in this episode, and you got it, and it just kinda, even though there wasn't a ton of fighting or anything like that, you were still kinda left on the edge of your seat at the end of the episode, um, just kinda being like going like, I need to see this next episode because I feel like we are finally making some headway here in what it was, and like you said, there was also the omission of couple things
Yep.
in this episode, and it just I feel like it we were able to propel the series forward because we finally broke that, and it just helps. So, long story short, I felt like it was a very good episode, especially when I was expecting to be disappointed so greatly,
Right.
after the last one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This was a pleasant surprise, especially after the way like episode 5 was the highlight of the season. And as you know, this episode definitely didn't hit that point, but it continued the story in a good way. It like we were talking about earlier, it didn't dance around one point. It kind of just kept going forward. And we didn't and the thing is they focused completely in this episode on John and everything that surrounds him.
Yes.
That's it. We didn't go to magical. Thank the Lord. We didn't, we just focused on this one thing, and this is what the show needs to continue to do. As I will state again, I don't give a shit about magical. Please stop making me stop trying to make me care about whatever that is. Because it's
Because we
not
don't.
because I listen, I feel there's gonna be something major that's gonna happen that's going to link these 2 things back together, but as for right now, I don't care. Just
I mean,
thank
there's
you.
gotta be, at this rate,
Yeah,
otherwise, if they don't do something, I will be more upset with this whole series
right.
about the time they spent on this. That will legitimately be my biggest mark if they don't do something with Madrigal at this point.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's pretty much the gist of non-spoilers, so I'm gonna warn all of you now, if you haven't seen episode 6 of Halo, make sure to go tune in, go watch the episode, come back so you can hear all these spoilers without being upset. Like, why did he say that? There's
why did he
always
do that?
there's always that one person.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't be
well,
that
we're
person.
warning you now. We're warning you now, so get out,
Yep.
leave,
Yeah,
and come back. Well, I mean, come back later,
yeah, come back
but go
later. Yeah,
watch
we
the
want you to come
episode first.
back. Just
Yeah,
go watch the show.
yeah.
It's to the point where it's like this is a good show now. Like I can say it's a good show where a few episodes ago I wouldn't have said that.
I would have been like, "It's an okay
It's
show.
a show.
It's
That's what I
good.
would say.
It's good, but not great." And now we're getting to the point where, like, you're actually feeling drawn into this
Yeah.
story.
So
Are
yeah,
you gone
so
yet?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
are you
Get out of
gone?
here. Get out. Okay, they've had enough warning. All right, shouting with spoilers now. Let's talk about this episode and what you thought of this episode and yeah,
Okay.
go.
Okay, so let's start off. You touched on the first thing that I really wanted to bring up, and that was just how absolute terrible Halsey is as a person.
Yep.
Just how absolute just she is just the worst.
Jesus.
She is the just terrible as a person, as a mother, and I'm sorry, she should not even be called a scientist at this rate. She is absolutely horrible, and I don't even know why I'm so upset about this because I know that this is how this character needs to be, because they have not deviated from her character from the games to the video, but I think it's because you are seeing flashbacks, they are diving so much deeper into that story that you are just like, "This person is trash."
This origin, when she tells the origin of the Spartan program, and like, John sits her down and is like, what the fuck? Like, why did you do this? And
Yeah.
and it wasn't even the fact of like, she kidnapped these kids, because she needed, literally, this is a story, everybody. And if you've watched the episode, which if you're still here, you should have watched the episode, but like, she literally states, I needed children no older than 6, but unfortunately, 6-year-olds can't sign consent, and parents aren't just going to give their kids away.
Right.
So she had to kidnap them replace them with Flash clones that will die eventually on
Like,
purpose.
almost immediately
Right.
after they were like, she's like, they would start, like, headaches, nosebleeds, stuff, whatever, and then they would just
They literally go into
die.
cardiac arrest and die. Like,
Yeah.
it's horrifying. And you're like, this is some mad scientist type shit. All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
This is something some crazy doctors did back in the 40s during the World War II. All right. Like, like, what?
I
Was the Spartan Pro like? Do you ever find? I mean, listen, I played. I want people to like don't get mad at me. Like I've played the Halo series, but it's been a very long time, and my memory is awful. So like trying to remember as much stuff about the Halo game series as like Schoening, as all the knowledge that's in Schoening's head about the game series, it's not even remotely close. When do they ever talk about the origins of the Spartan program in the Halo game series?
in the games, no. I
Okay.
don't believe that there is any mention of how the Spartan 2, like, how the program actually came to be and how they did it. Well, I somebody out there is probably a little bit better and more versed in it. If there is a mention of it, it is very minimal. All
Okay.
of the lore that I got from it came from the book series, which is canon with the game series,
Right.
but it's just no, if you've only played the video games, you've never read the books, I believe that any mention of the fact that they legitimately kidnapped 6-year-old like 5 or 6-year-olds, replaced them with Flash clones that
Yeah.
then died.
Right.
I don't even know if there's a I don't even know if there's, like, a reference to that. The fact that they replaced them with clones, I gotta go back and reread some books, but I don't think they ever mentioned that. I think they just straight up mentioned in the books that they just kidnapped the kids.
Right. It was
The
just
kids just
like
disappeared.
parents woke up and they're like, "Where's my kid?" Like,
I think that was. But I could be wrong. But I'm not going to say that I'm right, but I
yeah.
have no idea.
Let's just say it's a horrendous story,
It's terrible.
and it makes it in the fact that the so Captain Keys and I can't remember who this like high.
Parangoski,
There you go.
Admiral Parangoski, you find out that both of them,
Were
like,
involved.
knew about this,
Yeah.
and it's basically I mean, and the sucky part behind it is like, they just kinda blow it off too, like,
Yeah.
I think Parangoski kinda just says, like, people just when they need something, they just kinda realize that they kinda just have things that go around, the protocol and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
uh, she basically is just as sketchy as Halsey is because she's just sets Halsey up to basically take the whole brunt of everything,
Oh yeah.
like they didn't know what was going on, and they just need and she calls Halsey a scapegoat. She just goes like, "Hey, council needs a scapegoat.
Yep.
Halsey's your person." And which, don't get me wrong, Halsey's good scapegoat because she's the worst of them all, but
I mean, she's the worst of them all, and she's the one who she puts all that information out there.
yeah,
Like the other two, I don't know what you're talking about. Like
yeah,
that's what they got because they don't need to admit to anything because no one has said anything. And to be honest, I feel and Halsey's not going to say anything. She even says it like that's fine. Like yeah, I told John all this information, but I didn't tell him you were involved. Why would I do that? It would just destroy everything.
right.
But
No, I
also Miranda listens in as
yeah.
well to the conversation and hears that whole story and is just horrified. Like absolutely horrified.
I mean,
And
can you blame her? I mean,
no,
legitimately,
no,
she
I
just
mean,
found out that
I
her
think any of us would
mother
have
and
heard that
father
story.
are, like, the
Right.
worst people ever.
I think if anybody heard that story, like if I was in that room, what
Ah,
what?
well, yeah, but I
Wait.
mean, think about that, and then think from her point of view where it's legitimately her mother and father that are the
Yeah.
I mean, they're like the 2 worst people ever, and you just
Yep.
kinda find that out because she just happens to eavesdrop on that, and it's right as I mean, she pops in, like, right at the worst time, too.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, that part honestly left me a little speechless just because of how deep they dove into that.
Yeah. Good news. Kai's still alive. I was so
Yes,
happy
yes,
when
we
I
did
saw her
find
still
that out.
alive. It opens up to her screaming bloody murder because she's in excruciating pain, and I was like, "Oh, please don't die." I'm glad that you're still here. I love her
Yeah.
character. I love the Spartans. I'm really hoping we get something, where Kai and John kind of tell the other two about the chip, and they do the same thing, and we get like the group kind of a different form of the Spartan group of this team.
Mhm.
I think that'd be really interesting. Uh, but yeah, I'm glad she's alive. I glad Halsey is being, taken away to wherever she's going. I know that like they gave her a lab on like off planet, right?
Yeah, so did they actually give it to her? That's where I got so confused because when when she's in there and she's talking one-on-one with Parangoski at towards the end of the episode there, and then all of a sudden, she's talking about how basically you're gonna be the scapegoat, but I'm gonna allow you to have this lab, but it's not gonna be here, it's gonna be somewhere else. But then all of a sudden, it's like the whole dramatic thing changes, and I don't know whether it's because she's just making it try to look good
Yeah.
for like the recording and everything, and then all of a sudden it's just like Halsey's confined to her, her living quarters along
Yep.
with creepy dude. Creepy dude's with her. Um, and you also kind of come to find out that creepy dude, and that's all I'm gonna refer to him
I
as,
mean, you're not wrong.
uh, he while he is Halsey's right-hand man, basically,
Yeah.
he is just as sketchy, if not almost sketchier than Halsey, because this dude is like he's, like, able to hack I mean, he built, like, the whole and he says he's like, he built, like, the whole mainframe
Yeah.
firewall system of everything that the UNSC uses.
And he's been doing it for 30 years. How old is this
Yeah,
guy? He looks like he's like
he looks
maybe
like he should
late
be, like
30s, maybe early
yeah,
40s. What?
yeah, it's like, did he, like, come out of the womb just, like, typing on a
Just
computer,
coding.
like, "Ah, your firewall's got is pathetic, let me rebuild it for you," I don't know
It's like,
what
kid, let me give you your
he's
bottle.
I don't even know what was really going on, but I feel like there's almost more to his character than something, but
Oh
they
yeah.
keep, like, introducing, like, these little things that he does. He's, like, some technology whiz. He's a doctor that helps, Halsey with all of this stuff. It's like he's like a jack of all trades, and I'm starting to go like, "Is this
Ye-
dude just as crooked, if not a little bit more crooked than Halsey?" Because, Halsey in the games didn't I mean, there's no mention of, like, a straight, like, right-hand man that's always there with her, but
Right.
this guy, like, never leaves her side.
No, he's like in her house, and you're like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, why is he confined to her living quarters?
right.
I
Like he got fired too.
yeah,
It's all
I don't
weird.
even know what happened with that, but
It's
the dude just throws me, and I almost cringe every time I see him.
yeah. I don't like him. I don't like him at all. Cortana, I love the tests that John does on Halsey. He like locks her in a room. He turns off some like safety measure, which like if she gets exposed, she pretty much like can like
Gonna turn into a
melt.
liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that he tells the story of like, do you remember? I can't remember the person's name, but just like, do you remember, you know, so and so? He's the one, he created. I think he was the one who created all the ships,
Yeah,
right? He
he's
was a
talking about the guy that basically was the shipwright to the whole UNSC fleet and
yeah,
basically brought them into the modern era, and he always talks about how this one guy left, like, one back door into like, a certain thing, and he's
yeah,
basically I mean, you watch him how John apparently has studied this so well, and he just, like, goes and he there's, like, 5 steps that he's gotta do, and I mean, he just so cautiously or
Yeah.
just, "This is what's gotta happen," and before
Yep.
too long, Elsie's locked in this lab,
Yeah.
and she's about to get liquefied.
Yeah. And he's, you know, talking to Cortana. He's like, "Make me stop this." She's like, "I can't do that. Like, the only thing I could do is turn you off, pretty much. Like, I'd put you in like a stasis." And I love that literally it was just a test. It was just he was literally just doing this. He didn't well, I mean, I'm figuring he does want to kill Halsey or hurt her for what she's done, but at that moment he didn't want to kill her. He just wanted to test out how the extent of Cortana's powers on him
Mhm.
or control, I should say. Awesome. Great. I loved it. I love that
Oh, it
scene. I
was
love
intense.
Pablo Schreiber, his in straight laced face, just the whole time telling the story, and Cortana's just like, "What are you doing? Stop!" And you got Halsey just like freaking out, trying to get him to stop. Best
And
scene of this episode, in my opinion. I loved the whole thing.
it was a it was a very powerful, like, I
Yeah,
don't even know, 3-minute, like, clip. I don't even know how
yeah,
long that was, but it felt like when you're watching the timer tick down, it's like it's taking forever, and you're just like, "You've got." And can we also just give, credit to Jen Taylor who voices Cortana
oh
because
yeah,
she even though you are not seeing Jen Taylor as a person here, you are, like, looking at Cortana, and you are getting so invested in this character because you're seeing the emotion, I mean, everything just portrayed through the voice, and it
yeah,
is just spot because, I mean, Cortana is pleading with John here, like, "Let her out, don't do this," and, I mean,
yeah.
she's just, like, begging. It
It's
was
great.
it was top tier acting.
I feel like that's why you bring back Jen Taylor to be Cortana, just because I mean, she's been doing it for 20 years. Like, you just like when you're recasting for characters like Master Chief in the games, he was, who he was in the game. Like, he never took his helmet off, so it was more of a voice and an action.
Mhm.
So like casting a person under the suit, I feel is an easier task. And but when when Halsey, it's just like just find a woman who, you know, it's just your normal casting. But when it comes to Cortana and this, she is. I mean, when it comes to like iconic Halo characters, it's it's Master Chief, of course, at number one because I mean
Mhm.
he's the face of not just Halo, but he is like the face of Xbox. And then you
Right.
have Cortana. I mean, Cortana was so big that at one point in time, when Microsoft was making cell phones, the AI for those phones was Cortana, and they had Cortana's voice recognition crap on the Xboxes as well. Like, she
You
is
can
a
still
oh
do
really?
it a
Yeah,
little
I mean
bit on
probably.
Windows.
Yeah, I've never actually done it, but like I remember buying a Windows phone uh, and having that option because it was
Mhm.
exactly like Siri. Yeah, Cortana's huge, and like it's and if you're gonna do VFX to bring her to life, why not bring Jen Taylor, who sounds exactly the same today as she did 20 years ago when she voiced Cortana for the first time in Halo Combat Evolved?
And
It's easy choice.
the other thing is you're when you're hearing Cortana's voice, you're hearing Jen Taylor.
Yeah,
It's her voice.
that's her
I mean,
voice.
listen to any interview that Jen Taylor's ever had and just listen to her. It's Cortana talking. I
Yeah.
mean, her voice is iconic. You can hear her and you just like, I
You
know
want
exactly who that
you
is.
want to listen to Jen Taylor talk? Well, if you're watching this on, I mean, the only place you can watch this show is on Paramount Plus. They have a show called Halo, the series Declassified, and episode 4 of that they interview Jen Taylor. So go watch that. It's awesome. It's, to be honest, of all the interviews they've done with cast, that one was my favorite, just because of who Jen Taylor is.
And then just a little bit of trivia for you, just so you know, is the originally Jen Taylor was not gonna be Cortana in this.
No,
She was it was
it was
supposed to be
supposed to be
Natasha,
yeah,
McElhone or whatever
yeah.
her last name is, and I just wanna say that I think if they had gone that route, you would have lost 90% of the fan base
Oh, yeah.
regardless. When Cortana first popped up and it wasn't Cortana's voice, they
Right.
would have been like, "I'm
Yeah,
done."
because they wanted because of the fact that the whole thing is that Cortana is just an AI clone of Halsey, they wanted that kind of feel. So, like, the actress who plays Halsey was also going to play Cortana, but she was gonna speak in an American accent like Cortana
Mhm,
does, to kinda have that same rapport. They do have Cortana looking like her in a way. It's kind of a
mhm,
blend. It's not like, "Oh, yeah, this completely looks like Halsey," but at least they got her to look somewhat like Halsey, so that keeps the faith for that. But, yeah, Jen Taylor, she's one of those, like, you lock her in. She is
yeah,
Cortana, you can't replace her. Just it can't happen.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree.
So, let's talk about, McKee. She is taken in at the end of episode 5. She's got this whole plan with the Sangheili. She, gets brought in and she just wants to talk with John. She feels she knows what John is capable of doing because she is also capable of doing the same thing. They're kind of the same, well, not really the same person, but they can do the same things. Like they can, what they can both touch these artifacts and experience things. And she
Right,
knows everything he's going through. What you also find out in this episode is that the more that John touches the artifacts, the more it's killing him. Like it's actually
right.
hurting him physically. There's just throughout the episode, he's constant like he goes back to the ship. You see him using that like diagnostics station again, like where
Mhm,
he's testing to see how he is, and it's like critical. And he talks with McKee later in the episode. There was like 2 or 3 encounters that they have together where they talk to like he talks with her. You have the beginning where he's at the initial interrogation where you have the guard outside who's the smartest person in the damn show.
and
He's
he's like,
like
"I don't trust her," and
he's like
I'm like, "This man has got the whole goddamn thing figured out."
he's
And
like
it's like the funny part is it was so well played out that I mean, John's, like, standing there and the dude just so nonchalantly just goes like, "I don't trust her. There's something bad about this chick." And, like, John kinda, like, looks at him for
he's
a
like, "Huh."
second, and I just kinda wanna be like, at that point, John coulda totally taken this one
Oh
guy
man.
and just walked right in, popped McKee in the head, and then you coulda just cut to the credits and the whole series could have been over right
Yep.
there. Just solved a
100%.
billion and one issues.
Yep. He literally looks at him. He's like, I don't I don't like her. I don't trust her because Covenant never take prisoners.
Yep.
And I was like, that guy, that's a smart guy. Why isn't he a higher up? Why isn't he like, Captain
Why
Key's
is he
position
guarding
here?
this person?
Yeah,
He
what is
needs
going
to be up with, like, Admiral Hood and all of them. I don't know what's
Oh,
going on.
that dude is I was like, man, I really hope we see him again. We probably won't because he was nothing. He was literally just a character with one line.
You're probably gonna watch him die in, like,
No.
the next episode. Like, McKee is gonna jump or get out of her cell, and he's gonna be the first one to die, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, "Well, the whole hope for the humans in the Human Covenant War just died there because that
Yep.
man knew exactly what was going on."
Yeah. Bravo to that guy. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, so the first time John interrogates her, she tells him about, you know, where they might be. And it's like a planet that they consider like a holy land. And she tells him like the where in the galaxy they could be and nowhere to be found. Like this place doesn't exist. At least they
mhm,
can't find it. So he goes back and he's like, it's not there. Nothing is there. And she's like, well, I've never been there. I don't know what to tell you. And this is when you start seeing John being more irritable and he's in pain. So he's constantly like holding his stomach and just trying to just figure shit out to the point where they both have they have the conversation about like we're the same. We experience the same things. We can sense when things are happening, and ultimately, John is just like, screw this. I'm just going to touch the artifact again. He goes and touches it. Um, and you find out, yeah, they literally are connected
Mhm.
because at one point you think they're both going to die because she starts going into convulsions. She starts having seizures. Could right before she's about to slice some bitch with a freaking her little knife finger. Just ding.
Mhm.
She got a lightsaber in her finger, by the way. Like
Which
this,
I think is
like what?
badass.
What the hell? Man, I can't wait to watch Star Wars and some Jedi. She doesn't have a lightsaber. She just goes like this, and all of her nails are just lightsabers. Like,
That'd be sweet,
all
not gonna
right.
lie. That's some Sith level shit right
Oh
there is what
my
that
god,
is.
just like Freddy Krueger with Freddy Krueger lightsabers.
Yes,
Holy
yes.
shit, what is going on? We're veering off track here. But yeah,
We're
she
gonna have
goes
some producer calling us.
and I was like, "What are you doing? How much do you want for the idea? Please." I want that phone call. Um, she starts going into seizures as he's holding the thing. You think they're both gonna die because um like their readings are starting to go all over the place and it's almost getting to the flat line. This is where Halsey also has a way of getting Cortana to kind of be in her room, like be in her house, because
Mhm.
she literally what Cortana does is breaks through all the firewalls that were to prevent her from going there. And I love it. She's like, yeah, it was a little tough. A couple walls. I knocked him
She
down.
she's just she just shrugs it off so much,
Yeah,
and she's just
she's
like
great.
and the funny part is that creepy dude sits there and he's like, "There is not a hole a hole in my security," and she just goes like, "Yes, there is, and I can actually tell you how you can patch this."
She literally
His
just slaps that
face
dude in
is
the
like,
face.
"I
It's
I
so
know,"
good.
and he doesn't even know what to do with it.
It's so good. So what Cortana does is she brings up both of their readings and they find out like after everything starts to calm down that both their readings are exactly the same. Like their
Mhm,
hearts are beating exactly the same. And John and McKee, they meet in like I don't this is just like a vision, right?
it's a
They're both having the
vision,
same
yeah.
vision where they're encountering each other. You think they're gonna like there was a weird thing. I was like, are they gonna kiss? Is this gonna get weird? Like, is this like I didn't
Yeah.
think anything like more than that was gonna happen. I was like, are they just gonna throw this way off? Like John has never had that type of feeling towards anyone, so it'd have been just really off putting. But it for a hint of that scene, I was like, please don't make them kiss. This makes no sense. But it was just like because of the face touching, I was like, "Oh no, what are we doing?" And
Yeah,
then nothing happens, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." But everybody, we get to see Halo for the
there it
first
is.
time in the we've only seen holograms of it, when people would be looking at it, kinda studying the whole thing, but we've never seen I mean, to be honest, I don't this is not the real Halo because this is just a vision from both of them. But this is when you think of like I was to be honest, I would when they were panning down into like there was like a couple hills and they were panned down. I'm like, man, that kind of looks like the opening shot to the first game. Like when you hop out and you have to
Right.
walk up that hill. I'm like, that looks like that scene.
Yep.
Probably
I
wasn't,
agree.
but it just this is where it starts to bring back those like you know 10-year-old me playing Halo Combat Evolved for the first time and just like I'm getting all those buggies inside me just wiggling around. It's great.
We're finally getting to a point where we feel like we're actually catching up with some of the lore of the games where, Halo is becoming a more real concept in this. I mean, we have a TV show named Halo. We have
Yep,
only heard name drops of Halo. We have not actually seen what gives this thing its name yet. And then you
exactly.
finally get this and it was a neat way to end the episode where, you get this kind of vision and stuff like that, and really, you don't even know where they're at first. At first, when I saw it, I thought I was like, "Oh, they're on this world that, she was talking about, the Covenant considering a holy land."
Yeah.
And it was gonna start playing into something, and then all of a sudden, you just get this nice little pan to the side, and you are able to look up into the sky, and you can see, the ring
Go
going
yeah.
up, and you're like, "Oh my god," and
Ooh-wee.
I was just Yep, and they actually even if I'm right, they play the Halo theme a little
Yeah.
bit in the
You
in the background there?
you could hear
You
it
kinda get the
slightly.
chant.
Yep.
Yeah, which I thought was a nice touch there as well. But, I gotta admit, somebody in the comments is gonna actually sit there and say like, "Well, Schoening, you were wrong. You said we weren't gonna see Halo until the very last episode. Here we are." And I'm like, "Guess I'm happy to be proven wrong."
Exactly. Like, sometimes when people go, "You were wrong," you're like, "Well, I'm glad."
I'm kinda glad that I was proven wrong.
Oh, I just wanna go back to, McKee talking with John, explaining, who she is. Like, she tells him everything. Like, she tells him that she was taken by the Sangheili when she was a kid, and, she lived among them and, learned their language and everything, and then tells him that she is called the Blessed One.
Mhm.
So it's like, what's the play here? Like, what is her end game? Like, I understand what she tells the prophets, but like, what is her actual play? Like, I'm just like, what is she trying? Because I feel, if John, like, is John like the only thing in her way to getting to, finishing her mission, or is, like, maybe trying to drag John to her side? I'm still kind of confused by her. I'm still kind of figured, like, I haven't really pinpointed ultimately what she's all about.
They they played this whole part with her, being with the UNSC this episode away. I expected the UNSC to play dumb in this episode, but they actually addressed it quite a bit where they're all pretty unsure about her because, like, what was a human doing, with the Covenant? Why all of a
Yep.
sudden did you decide to fall when, they took the artifact,
Right.
blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, they're actually being a little bit smarter about this." And I'm like, because, I was just kind of expecting him to be like, play dumb and just be like, "Oh, well, they had a prisoner and this is fine." And then all of a
Right.
sudden, they do the typical thing where they completely trust this person, and then all of a sudden it's just, "Oh, they stabbed us in the back. Oh my god, I didn't see this coming."
Right.
But they did such a good job with actually playing into the whole "we don't trust her," and then it's like you said, her character is just really this. You know from the early episodes that supposedly, her goal is to kill Chief, but I'm sitting here now wondering, like, does she have a bigger plan? Just
Right.
is she like you said, is she hoping that she can, instead of killing him, like, bring him with her to back to the Covenant?
Right.
Or is she trying to do her own thing and use Halo for herself?
Yeah.
Or is she actually, like, well, I can't say no. It can't be like she's wanting to work with the UNSC on this and pay back the Covenant for holding her. I know she's not that, because she's willing to kill people, but
Right.
I ju it just, to me, her character dives she's deeper than just the "I gotta kill Master Chief" than, what we originally thought she was gonna be. And I just feel like there's more of a goal, because I feel like she could just basically drop a beacon to the Covenant, they could come and raid Reach, and
Right.
they could get the Keystone. If that's all they really wanted,
I mean, to
that
be
could be
honest,
done.
did this event cause that?
Right.
Like, John using the artifact with her, and then them kind of linking up, did that help send a signal out to the Covenant of where they are? Because I'm guessing
Well
these two artifacts, putting them together, is what's going to help create Halo, right?
well, it doesn't create Halo, because Halo exists,
Right. So it's like a
but
but it's like the ultimate weapon.
yeah, nobody knows where it's at, and I'm trying to figure out what the keystones actually are. Are they because, like, in the video games, you have the indexes, which are basically I mean, they're what activate the Halo that specific Halo array.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, is are these keystones, if you put them together, do they create a portal to get you to Halo? What does this what do these 2 keystones, what do they do?
Right.
We know that the small one that the UNSC has clearly fits into the big one that the Covenant took. That's what we know.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of it's got me baffled really what the point of these keystones are. But, oh, I lost my train of thought. Basically, I'm just like, where I just feel like Mackey's gotta have or McKee has gotta have something else up her sleeve other than just wanting to get the keystone for the Covenant, and maybe it is just she wants to kill John, but I feel like she could've honestly, I feel like she had a couple instances where she could've, and she didn't take that shot now.
Right.
I mean, he was, basically, sick. He was down on his knees. I mean, just basically I mean, she could have so easily just walked up behind him and just with her little, like you said, lightsaber finger, just
Yeah.
done. Why didn't it happen? She's saving him for something.
Right.
And then also on top of that, when she kind of got that gut feeling that he was going to go touch the keystone, she was like, "I gotta talk to him now. We can't have this. This is not good." Like, she knew something was gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't I don't really understand what all's going on about that. Because then all of a sudden, it's like, after he touches, you see them in this vision, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Whoa," like, she hasn't seen any of this either.
Right. And that's why they have that kind of embrace. It's not really an embrace, but it's like they come together and are like,
Yeah,
"All right, well, I guess this is." I feel like it's more of like a, "Hey, I feel like we now have to work together to try to figure this shit out."
right. Like, I
Uh,
just felt like there was a pivot in the character there.
yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I do want to talk a little bit about more of Halsey's fucked up shit that she, it just keeps spewing out of her mouth. She has Miranda come over to her house because so Miranda pretty much inherits the lab.
Mhm,
And I love that, like her going in there and like being able to do just way more stuff. And it was kind of weird though. Like she asked about the blood tests on Mackie
mhm.
or McKee. Jesus.
It's I'm good. I did it too.
Yeah. I was doing so good. But yeah, so she asked for the blood test and it says like access denied. You're like, well,
Right.
but then she does it again and she gets the results and you're like, oh, okay. I don't know what the hell the point it was to tell her she didn't have access. But yeah, so she gets summoned pretty much to Halsey's, pretty much to, Halsey's going to try to get some information out of her. And she's like, nah, this is not how this is going to play out. Like, you're fucked up, lady. Like, and then Halsey has pretty much the audacity to say, I never really wanted you because I never believed in family. And it's like,
Yeah.
boom, right in the gut. They're like, what the hell? Like, we already thought you sucked, but this makes it even worse. You're just terrible.
And
And
then and then
oh, go
also
ahead.
then did she steal Miranda's, like, retina?
Yeah,
Or
so
did
that
she
she could,
copy it?
yeah, so she could probably gain access back into her lab.
I yeah, I was like, I couldn't quite figure that out because, like,
Yeah.
that's where creepy dude all of a sudden comes out
Yep.
from
Just
around his creepy corner, and he's
like,
like, "Did you get a good
hey, and
look
you're
at
like,
her?" And I'm just like,
just creeps out from behind the corner. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what the
"Okay.
hell? Yeah. It's just making her look worse and worse and worse. Like, you don't tell your kid
Oh my god."
that pretty much I never wanted you. I never believed in it. It's like, well, it happened. You gotta figure it out. You gotta live
Yep,
with
and
that.
here I am.
Yeah. So, yep, Halsey's just irredeemable to me. She's just so far into the shit pile that it's like, if she died in the next episode, I don't know if I'd really feel that bad.
I don't think I'd feel bad at
Can
all
creepy guy go
anymore.
with her though? Like, damn, man, I'm sick of looking at that guy. He creeps me out.
Ah, that yeah, that dude just
Damn,
sets
man.
me off.
And it's not even the fact of like this. It just shows that this actor's doing a great job at just being a creepo. Like, just
Yeah, I'm sorry, he still the main thing was when he tried to kiss the dead body. I was like
yeah, that was
I was like,
ooh.
"Okay,
Yep.
this is a little too
Yep.
much."
Oh, yep. Yikes. Well, Shoning, do you have any final thoughts on this episode before we end?
No, I'm pretty sure you pretty much touched on the whole thing. I mean, it was just we had a lot of good things, story-wise, we came to find out that we just hate Halsey that much more. We found out
Yep.
that the UNSC as a whole has some pretty sketchy characters in it that are withholding a lot of information.
Yep.
McKee, we are not 100% sure what she's doing anymore with that. We got to see Halo. I guess we could mention real quick that, we didn't get to mention last time because I showed it to you after we got done recording, was that the brute in the last episode could be, and we're not 100% sure, Atriox from Halo Infinite, and that was, stated by the guy who they hired to, basically create the Sangheili language for this. And that's just
Yeah.
kind of a neat tie-in that even if that wasn't Atriox, even if we don't see him again, that somebody that was writing the script and then, or was basically creating this language named that character Atriox, and it's just neat because that's the only brute you've seen so far. We probably
Right.
see him again later, but it was just kind of a neat nod, and if you guys didn't catch that in episode 5, you can go back and look at it and, Google it because there is a neat little, interview with the guy that makes the language that they talk about why, they're calling this guy Atriox, so
Mm. Yeah, it was definitely very interesting. I hope we get more for that. Or even if we don't get that until like season 2, I'd be okay with it. I haven't played Halo Infinite yet, so you know, I was like, "Who is that?" Like,
yeah. No, just basically just if anything, it's a nice nod to the video
right,
games,
right.
and I thought it was really cool that somebody caught that, and they wondered that, and then they actually asked the guy, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, no, according to my language that I've created for this guy's name is Atriox," and it's just like, "Okay."
Mm. I do want to shout out Charlie Murphy. She had to learn a very difficult fake language that was
Mhm.
created specifically for the show. And according to the gentleman or the two gentlemen who created the language, she kicked ass. Like she was like one of the best actors to ever like to be able to nail down such a difficult language. She was like one of the best. And so, hey, shout out to Charlie Murphy because I listening to her and listening to that language, I'm like, whew, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well,
That's a
no
lot.
kidding. Just try to read it off of a script, but then put it in your head and be able to just recite that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to be it for our review of Halo Episode 6 titled Solace. Next week, we'll be talking about Episode 7. But before that, let's go. I'm going to go over what to expect from Dissect That Film this week. As you know, this will be out on Monday. Tomorrow will be our final video debut ever. Well, unless, except for all the weekly videos that we put out, but like our final pre-dissect that film video debut. We're going to be releasing our Bad Boys 2 video debut, the one I did with my brother before we officially became Dissect That Film. There won't be, unfortunately, we're not doing a fresh cuts this week just because of illness and just trying to find the time to go to the theater to see the movie we were originally going to cover. We're not going to do it this week. Maybe we'll try to shoot for next week. We're going to try to cover The Northman. But we'll keep you guys, you know, we'll let you guys know when that happens. Thursday will be my review of episode 6, the season finale of Moon Knight. And hey, I might have a special guest for that. And I'm very excited. I won't say who it is yet because I got to make sure that he is good to go for that day. And then Friday will be episode 52 of the podcast where we'll be talking about the Batman with a special guest. But you'll have to wait for that too. I can't announce the
Ooh,
special guests. I got to make sure that they're actually going to be on the show before I disappoint myself and everybody else.
just keep getting hyped, everybody, because your hype
Exactly.
brings those people in.
Exactly. But until next time, I am your host, Brett Parker. That is Andrew Schoening. Make sure to check him out on all his socials and Twitch. All that stuff's going to be down in the description. We'll see y'all later.
Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye.